Here he comes.
Incoming.
Yahoo! Woo!
Okay.
It's kind of fun how you guys like it's just become a sort of thing, and so now everybody just push things back to the middle. The donut, the original, as
It's more
Mary
impressive
says,
when you
the
have a
OG.
chance, the
Yeah.
Well, you know what I miss is Cheetah's waffles.
Oh, you brought in that one.
You know what the best thing is about waffles?
That they taste yummy?
No.
Syrup?
No.
Oh.
No. The W.
The W?
Yeah, because without it, they're just awful.
Oh, no.
Cut.
That, you have to squeeze the chicken for that one. That would be terrible.
That's a dying chicken. Wait. This is a dying chicken one.
That's like the
Sorry,
Marx
emotional
Brothers chicken
support.
used to come down when somebody told a bad joke. Just hanging from a string.
Awful instead of waffle.
Yeah, that's the best thing about waffles. Seriously, I heard that someplace and I thought, I'm saving that one.
Good morning.
He's been saving. He just kind of comes up with these every once in a while. He has them in his mind. He's mulling over them for
Dad
weeks.
jokes.
Dad jokes.
It's hard to keep them
What
to
is a
yourself.
dad joke?
It's a bad joke.
A bad joke?
Yeah.
How
Like,
is
what
it-
did the drummer name
That's
his
terrible.
twin daughters? Anna 1 and 2.
Oh.
That's a dad joke.
Yeah, it's a dad joke.
Why do bad jokes get called dad jokes?
I don't know. Maybe because dad's
Because dads are corny.
Good joke.
True.
So, good morning, St. Brendan. And it actually is morning
It
still.
is, yeah.
Yeah. We're on
Oh yeah,
time.
we're alive. We can take
Yeah.
questions.
That's it.
Although we should
Call in.
Yeah.
I should pull it up. Hold on, because it'll.
With
Hold on.
delicious donuts.
Yes, welcome to Evangelizing with Joy and Truth and.
Extremely strong coffee.
Coffee and half a donut.
It's only because you eat the other half.
Yes. They're quite tasty.
Yeah, they're really good.
They're brought to us again by Hillcrest Donuts. I didn't get them for free this time though.
Well.
That's sad. Not really.
Yeah, it's on the internet forever.
Oh,
Oh,
it's
volume,
noisy.
volume.
Turn down the volume. Oh, hey, look at that. My cousin is watching us already.
All right.
Oh.
Hello,
Wow.
Ryan.
Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
I think, Ryan, you might be the only one watching right now.
Yeah.
What are Ryan's questions?
So you're the official audience that we're going to play to today.
I know, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that funny, Ryan? We thought it was hilarious.
There's an awful lot of
You,
cherry
you
outside
need a
there.
lot of the chicken today, Dale,
Yes.
because it wasn't funny at all. I love you too, man.
Wow. What a tough crowd.
Poor Dale. Dale's having a tough morning.
I am.
It's good though, because you have your donut.
I do.
And your 1 decade of the rosary.
Yeah.
My finger rosary, which I need to get blessed, by the way.
Oh, is that why you brought it?
I just bought it.
Oh, okay.
Off this
Bought it
Spanish
and brought
retreat
it.
table out there.
Yeah. Mary Locke is on. Good morning, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
So today we have a few things that we were going to talk about, right?
Yes.
I
First-
forgot.
Happy belated Independence Day.
Yes, happy belated Independence Day, 4th of July celebration. So we're going to talk a little bit about independence, freedom in our country, and then we were also going to talk about 3 American saints.
Correct.
Dale did more homework than any of the rest of us. We were talking about it this morning and we're like, uh-oh. Dale,
Well, if I waited for you guys, I'd never get it done.
That's true.
So, St. Catherine Drexel, St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, and St. Kateri Tekakwitha. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah.
Tekakwitha.
Mary knows all about her.
That's
Ooh,
right.
the Mohawks.
That's because
Love her.
she's your...
Took her. She was still blessed when I was confirmed,
Oh.
but I got
Was it 2012 she became a saint? Or 2002?
2013 actually. I think.
13, okay.
Yeah, I think so. Pope Benedict.
That's right, Benedict, that's
Yeah.
right.
And one of them, which one was it? Seton?
It's the first American-born saint.
Yeah, but was she canonized in 2000?
Was it that recent?
No, 1975.
1975.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other, then
Catherine Drexel.
Catherine Drexel must have been the 2000 one. Then.
Yeah.
I have them all mixed up in my head.
Paul the Sixth did it just the year before, or the year before he died, I guess.
Elizabeth Hensey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are not very many American saints actually. Yeah, but Saint Kateri Tekakwitha is one.
Well, I think that we think about like the North American martyrs, for example.
Oh yeah.
Who are not American born, obviously, but we associate like the Jesuits
Right.
with America because of their missionary work.
I think they were killed in Canada too, right?
Ooh, yeah, that's
I
probably
think
true, actually.
they actually came into the United States, but then they went up to Canada, and that's where the Canadians
Right,
killed
right,
them.
right.
Which, I mean, they're burning churches too, so. Did I
Well.
just say that online?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, we'll just skip over that real quick.
Speaking of freedom,
I'm
Yeah,
just curious though,
right?
you guys know, I didn't look it up, but Father Damien, was he American born? Or did he come from some other country?
I don't, you mean Damien Malachi? From Malachi?
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
came
the
from another
leper.
country. So he,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
he was originally from,
Was it Belgium or something?
I don't remember.
Well, and also Hawaii wouldn't have been part of the United States at that time either, right?
So he was sent out to the leper colonies on Hawaii and Malachi.
We volunteered.
Yeah, well, he was originally sent and then he volunteered to stay for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then ended up contracting leprosy and died from it ultimately also, but not after he had served for many, many years out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have people from Malachi in the parish.
Really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Armina is from Malachi.
I didn't know she was
Yeah,
from
shout out
Hawaii.
to Armina. Yeah.
Hi, Armina! That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't, and her mom, of course, also, so I don't know.
Well, that's kind of one of the things about sort of with all the North American saints too, and the martyrdoms are excruciating stories. Like the one that I used to read late at night, the book's right over there, from 57 Saints, is the story of Isaac Jones.
I need my glasses, I can't see anything that far.
It was so brutal,
Oh,
and I just remember them talking about like some of the fingers that they just like took off of him, and then he
Yeah.
had to go back to Europe to get special permission to celebrate Mass because he didn't have the fingers needed
Oh,
to
yeah,
hold the
right,
Blessed
he had to
Sacrament.
get dispensation.
Yep.
Yeah, so
And he traveled
actually,
all the way, and then he came back.
speaking of little known facts, you can't, unless you get special permission, if you don't have like all of your digits, you have to have special permission to get ordained, actually, even. And then to celebrate Mass
Yep.
afterwards, yeah, because you could only hold the host originally with certain fingers even, so. Yeah, in fact, those used to be, I think, the only ones that were consecrated, but now our whole hands are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the thing with him, was that his fingers, well, I know his thumbs for a fact were gone, so I think he had to get like the middle fingers or something.
Well,
Yeah.
so speaking of torture, or lack of freedom, not freedom, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Go ahead.
Independence Day.
Independence Day.
Dale did tons of homework. Mary and I are just gonna sit back
Yep.
and listen to Dale. We're just gonna
Pontificate.
turn this way.
Why did I know this was gonna backfire? I'm not telling you guys anything.
Exactly.
Do your own homework. That's like what my dad used to say. Look it up yourself.
Look it up.
I even texted you guys, I know nothing about nothing.
That's when I would ask my dad how to spell something. I can remember that as you said that. It reminded me when I used to ask him how to spell something. He'd say, "Go look it up."
How are you supposed to look it up if you can't spell it?
And you didn't even have the internet, did you?
No, well, there was no
Oh,
internet.
so
You used your Webster's.
That's right, it was the dictionary. And then I had to walk to the library in the snow.
Both
Up
ways.
Big miles
Both
uphill
times,
both
both
ways.
ways.
Barefoot.
Barefoot.
Snow, yep, barefoot. Yeah. It was brutal.
Well, barefoot in the snow brings us back to George Washington.
Yeah.
He's not a saint.
No,
It's not a-
so we were talking about Independence Day, so we didn't know.
He wasn't even a Catholic.
No.
No, but in some ways we have that to thank it. I mean, for having the religious freedom that we have. Speaking of freedoms,
Yeah.
I mean, in the United States, there's a great misnomer that's out there, misinformation that's constantly sort of perpetuated in people's minds and in the media and all kinds of stories. But actually, it's not a separation of church and state in terms of the church cannot influence the state. We've talked about this actually before when we talked about
We did.
yeah, the Equality Act and different things. So it's not that the church cannot influence the state, it's the other way around, that the state is not allowed to influence the church, which is why even some of the dioceses really appealed when the states were saying that they were closing churches and things, and they're like, wait a second, you can't do that. And then actually it was decided in, I can't remember what state that was that in
California.
California?
I
Yeah.
think so.
So
Yeah.
they said that they couldn't enforce, the state couldn't enforce closing down of parishes.
They had to take them to court though.
Yeah,
And it's
right.
right there in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Not, the words separation of church and state are not there, but it's the Establishment Clause
Right.
saying that the government shall make no laws that
Concerning the
concerning the church or inhibit the church.
Right.
So, you know, it's they can't, it's to protect, like you said, it's to protect the church from the government.
Right.
The founding fathers, they were deists is what they were, most of them. And they said, you know, we don't mind having religion in the public square. They didn't want to discourage that.
Right.
Because people bring their beliefs with them as they go, you know.
Exactly.
That's not
I think
against
it's
the
a
law.
moral values
We were
to,
breaking with England, which is one of the few countries that does have a state religion, where it is like the entire, it's the Church of England.
There was numerous essays written just on that subject, trying to influence the Supreme Court to rule that, you know, the state can have a religion.
Mm.
So the closest I think that our country ever got to that was when, I think it was when Thomas Jefferson was president, that they had said that the Catholics had already been to see all the Indians, you know, and they were already established, a lot of them were Catholic already, the Indians, including Yakima and the Salish Indians here. And they called them Black Robes.
Right.
And they were already influencing all the natives, and they were really impressed with that. In fact, the Salish Indians here wrote a letter to Pope Pius IX, thanking him for sending the Black Robes and saving their souls. I mean, it was an incredible letter. I mean, you know, you think of Indians as savages. Nah, it wasn't the case at all.
right.
I mean,
We get sort of told that over time, right? And,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Or
so
different
they
times
were-
in history. Yeah.
So these were mainly French missionaries,
Right.
and they had already converted a lot of these people. And then Jefferson said, you know, no, we can't have just influence of one religion. So he said, well, the state will decide who can be missionaries.
Mm-hmm.
And so they sent out the Methodists and the Baptists, and the Indians didn't like that because they were losing their Black Robes, because they were substituted and they couldn't do anything about it. So they said that they wanted to be fair and send out all these other people, all these other missionaries, and
Well,
take
my
the place of the
recollection-
Catholic priests.
Right, and my recollection too is one thing that really distinguished the Catholic missionaries was that their willingness to adapt into the culture. So
Right.
celebrating Mass, for example, in the native language was something that Catholic missionaries were willing to do, whereas Methodists.
It wasn't
more-
easy, they didn't just walk in there, because there's numerous ones were martyred.
Oh, absolutely,
Right.
They were
absolutely.
just killed by the
Yeah,
Indians,
yeah.
you know, but some of them were very, very brave, and they stood up and said, you know, you need to stop this. This is not what faith in God is all about. And risk their necks, you
Yeah.
know, because, you know, if you got the rest of the tribe, and I guess in Salish Indians, one of the elders stood up and said, you know, we need to listen to the Black Robe. And they started to convert to Catholicism.
Yeah.
A lot of them lost that faith because of the missionaries that were pulled out, or sent in besides the Catholic Church. So,
Which gets it, I mean, we could launch right into Saint Kateria there, right? So she's
yes.
born over on the East Coast, right? And her her mother had been,
Algonquin.
was it kidnapped or something? I can't remember. Was she kidnapped?
Well, it's just in a raid.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then her mother was ultimately married to the chief.
The Mohawks.
The Mohawks,
Right.
yep. And then they actually all contracted, was it smallpox when they were?
She was quite young.
was 4 years old
Yeah.
or something like that, and permanently scarred actually.
Very
which is
scarred.
an interesting story because after her death, her face was completely restored, right? So she had been scarred throughout her life, and then when she died, her face was completely restored and she was made whole or beautiful again.
In front of all the people who were there, they saw
Right.
her skin restored.
So
Yeah.
this is part of the reason I actually picked her as my confirmation saint, because I had terrible acne as a
Oh.
little girl, and I was very moved by her whole,
Wow.
the fact that she was so strong and it didn't affect her spiritual life whatsoever.
Huh.
So, yeah.
You'd never tell that by looking at Mary.
Yeah, no kidding. What was impressed me about her though is when she was 10 years old, they were threatened to kill her if she didn't drop her faith in the Catholic, her faith. She wasn't even a Catholic.
Right, she wasn't Catholic initially.
She
They
wasn't
wanted her to
baptized.
get married first of all, and that
Exactly.
was, yeah.
But she walked 200 miles to another village so that she could practice her faith. So she walked 200
Oh, I
miles.
know.
I think we
Can you
may have just
imagine?
been booted off of the internet here. Hang on. I don't know if we're still live. Somebody want to go over there and check that to see if
Yeah.
we're still on? Because it just kicked me out, so that's not why I'm
Oh,
like,
the sensors are at work again.
The censor, that could be, who knows? Actually, that's true.
It says streaming live.
Oh, okay, I see it.
Facebook
Yeah, for whatever reason.
Streamy McStreamer.
Yeah. I see it still, it's live.
Oh, okay.
Yep, we're good. For whatever reason, it kicked me out. So I couldn't see it on my phone anymore.
Are you back on?
Yeah, no, I just got back in.
Mary
Yeah,
can tell
so-
us the rest of the story about Kateri. She knows all about her.
Well, you're at the, what, 10 years old? Is that? I was paying
Yes.
attention to
Yeah.
that. So she walked the 200 miles to escape the persecution because she didn't want to marry.
To another village.
Yeah, and then she converted when she was it 11?
I thought
Or
it
was
a
that
little
10?
I was 19.
No.
Or am I thinking of somebody else? No, I'm thinking that's Elizabeth Ann Seton.
Has a conversion experience. She's already,
Yeah, she was already
yeah,
Catholic, but
but she
married. She was married at 19, so.
Elizabeth Ann Seton.
Yeah, but she was, how old was she? 14?
I don't remember.
Hold on, I have it here somewhere, maybe.
I should know this, but, I mean, she died quite young, but they were also part of they were saying, at least in the
Oh
articles.
no, he's right. It was 19 when she
Oh, was it? Okay.
converted to Catholicism.
So she was only
died at
Catholic for a few,
24,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Hey, wait a second. I want to call a
Which is
timeout.
like a
Dale
trans-
is right about something. We need to. No, he's right about many things, but I'm just telling you. I think it's time for the chicken again.
Don't ever dance like that
It
again.
was the dance that did it. Oh man.
Dale's right.
Oh my. Back to the tough crowd.
Oh, just
But
having
no,
fun
she
with
was,
it, just having
so
fun
she
with
was 14 and then died at 24, right?
it. Yeah, so she was 19 when she converted.
Right.
And she actually then took a vow of celibacy, said that she would never be married to anyone but Jesus, right?
Yeah, her
Yeah,
dying,
She lived a
her
consecrated
dying,
life.
Yeah.
her dying words were, "Jesus, I love you," as she died. Then her face started to convert. As soon as she
Yeah.
died, her face started to
Healed.
restore.
Yeah.
I guess she was better than new. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
she just glowed.
Which is
Well,
what we
24,
believe.
wasn't that St. Therese of Lisieux? That was her age as well, right? When she
Yeah,
passed
and
away?
she was around that age, 23, 24.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it is
Anyway.
24. But yeah, to think about that, that's what we believe also, right? That we receive our glorified bodies when we die. Ultimately, actually, that's at the end of time, though, also. So when we die, hopefully our souls go to heaven. I guess there's always...
Let's get the sequence
Yeah,
right.
there could be hell. We don't want anybody to go there. But then there's a purgatory, right? If we have to pass through some time of purgatory. But in heaven, ultimately at the end of time, we'll receive our glorified bodies. So it won't be That's why when you see, typically speaking, statues of saints, they always look young, right, and either handsome or beautiful. They're not like, notice how I did that, handsome or beautiful.
I noticed I did that.
Yeah.
And you did it with your right hand.
So it's kind of a nice thing to think about, right? It's not that we'll have all of the aches and pains.
Yeah.
I always
Well, and
wondered
we were
that.
just talking about incorruptible saints, I think the last time we were all here
We
together,
touched
right?
base on it, yeah, a little
so
bit,
just
yeah.
the idea of that's
Yeah.
a glorified body.
I always wondered that you know, you get resurrected and you get your body, right? How do they, what age are you when they get?
Yeah, whatever it would be like, that would be sort of your prime, right?
Oh,
I mean, there's definitely the school of thought that says like 33, right?
Oh,
or
yeah,
30,
Jesus'
you know,
age,
right?
yeah.
But obviously with some of these younger saints and martyrs.
Yeah, I'd have to be younger than that with all the injuries I had by the time I was 33.
This isn't working out for me.
I'd have to be 12.
But I mean, you think about that, and it's not like, I mean, even with, people, of course, are cremated now, but the Lord can raise up from the ashes even, right? Which is what we're created out of in the first place.
Oh, you should touch on that. We talked about that a little bit, about ashes and people that disperse ashes
Oh, yeah.
in the ocean or mountains. Or,
Yeah, we shouldn't do that.
What is the ruling on that?
What is the, well, I feel like I
I
should
know.
pound my
You
fist
should
now.
gavel or something.
Maybe I'll text the Pope and ask him if you don't.
No, from the church's perspective, we shouldn't be, well, it's fine to be cremated, but we shouldn't have our ashes spread or placed just necessarily in a backyard haphazardly or something like that, right? So we should be buried in holy ground, blessed ground, first of all, but also a place where then people can go and pray, recognize the person who's died there also, right? And I mean, it's good for family members, it's good for us, even if we're not family members, to go to the local cemetery and spend time praying for those people and remembering those things. So
Well, it's
remembering
like
the
two
things.
different works of mercy, right? The spiritual
Yeah.
work of mercy is pray for the living and the dead, and the corporal work of mercy is bury.
Burying the
Yeah,
dead,
so
yeah.
it's kind of specific.
Yeah,
Let
because
the
we're
dead bury
not,
the dead.
well, we're not just we're a human being who is given a soul, right? Made in the image and likeness of God, so we shouldn't just, throw ourselves to the wind, literally, right? And that's difficult if people have done that in the past. Well, what do you do? Well, there's nothing you can do now, but the Lord can raise up from the dead, even, or from ashes that have even been scattered, right? So.
I don't think he would punish the dead person for the
No.
act of the living.
No, but we should, I suppose, seek that mercy too if we've done it. But most people, especially in today's world, most people don't even know, right, that that's the case.
Well, and in just the past year with COVID, that was kind of the
Yeah.
only option for some families, was cremation and then holding off.
Right, you had to,
Because
yeah.
we couldn't do the funerals and we couldn't,
Well, we had people, because they couldn't take their ashes home, and some people, for example, wanted to be buried maybe in Mexico or something, and so we actually kept cremated remains. We have a little sarcophagus in the sacristy that we use for sarcophagus.
Funerals.
Yeah, but we use for funerals. It's actually a beautiful box that someone built for us, and we keep it in the sacristy locked up. So we can't do that with everyone, right? So there's not enough room, but just as a holding place, so that people, because we shouldn't just have remains in our home either, right? So we shouldn't keep remains in our home in the urns or whatever, right? So I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen there. So somebody could break into your home, either steal them or hold them for ransom, or as they're destructing the house, right? Or they could knock them over, or they could be knocked over accidentally by anybody, right?
Yeah.
And people forget over time, and it just becomes disrespectful in some ways even. So, there's I just said, when I don't know if it was when you did the dance or what, but my cousin Ryan said, hit the chicken.
Thanks, Ryan, I appreciate it. That's the normal kind of review I get these days.
I don't know if it was at that point or not, but he said it at some point. We hit the chicken, and he said, "I just said hit the chicken."
Right on cue.
Yeah.
Boy, you have a tough family.
Oh yeah, you have no idea.
I'm getting hit one. So what's
Ryan said it was when you did the dance.
Oh.
He said hit the chicken.
It's like the Marx Brothers, right?
Ryan, we're gonna have you on the show
Yeah,
sometime.
special
We're
guest.
gonna come and bring you out as a special guest.
Yeah, there you go. That's when I'm not here. Then I can call in.
That'd be perfect.
That's hilarious. He'll call in and harass you.
So, Kateri was, she became a saint when?
Canonized was
canonized
2013.
And that was by,
She was Benedict XVI.
Benedict.
Pope
Yeah.
Benedict XVI. Yeah.
but she
It
was
must have been just before Pope Francis then.
she was
Oh, that's true.
she was beatified by John Paul, right?
I think so.
2002, I think, something like that.
No, it would have been, beatified would have been before that, because that was definitely not confirmed that late.
Oh.
So in the 90s, she was already a blessed. Yeah, but it would have been Pope John Paul II, I think.
You start looking at all these different saints and all the different dates, and they start to rattle around in your head after.
Right.
Well, and
Especially
Pope
when we're
John Paul
talking
II
about
was
3 different
busy.
ones.
He was, he beatified and
A lot.
canonized so many people.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Catherine Drexel, I've heard, I used to be at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, so I've heard about her.
I have that one too pulled up here.
You got all excited.
I did.
1774.
Pick me.
Yeah.
Right. Oh shoot, it's got some kind of advertisement over the top of it.
And she was married at 19 to a 25-year-old William Seton, who was a merchant.
Wait, Catherine Drexel or
Well,
Elizabeth?
Catherine
Seton?
Drexel, her family was super wealthy.
I thought we were talking about Elizabeth Ann Seton.
Oh,
yeah.
I think
You
you
said
said
Catherine.
Catherine Drexel. You said Catherine Drexel.
Squeeze?
I think we were talking about both.
So,
Yeah, Catherine Drexel, yeah.
super wealthy
Very
family.
wealthy. And they,
Yeah.
then they died.
But so her mom originally would feed the poor in their home 3 days out of the week.
Mm.
And then St. Catherine Drexel, I think at some point she gave away like millions of dollars, and this is back in the
Well, it was during her lifetime.
1900s, right?
Well, their father died, and he had an estate of $16 million, 3 daughters, and he divided this estate, and each daughter got $4 million, but could only get the interest. It's the only thing they could ever spend is the interest, never spend the balance of it. But even at that, was like $1,000 a day. Think how wealthy that is in 1890s. She was incredible. She was 96 years old when she died.
Yeah, 96, 1952 or 54 or
Something like that. And she built so many schools.
Yeah, like 65 different schools.
For
is
the
that right?
Indians and
Indians and
blacks.
Yeah.
And
Black
Xavier
Americans,
University in New Orleans, that was her
Yeah.
crowning thing there was that.
Yeah.
But she got herself in big trouble for setting up a school at a former plantation in the South.
Well, is that the one they burned?
The KKK got involved
Yeah,
with that one.
yeah.
But it didn't deter her. She still continued to go.
Yeah.
And she started this because she was invited to go to see an Indian village when she was young, and it just struck her so much that they had no education, they had no opportunities, and she said, I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And she
did.
went to Rome,
Yeah.
because she didn't figure out what
Well,
she was doing.
she's the one who went to Rome, right? And she asked for missionaries to come and do mission work to the Native Americans and to the black peoples.
Leo
And
the
the
13th.
Pope said to her, why don't you become a missionary?
Why don't
And she
you
was
do
like,
it?
oh,
I've never thought of that.
why don't I?
She thought that was the biggest revelation, and you know,
Yeah.
you think about it now, and you hear, you know, you can see just Leo XIII was a great pope,
Yeah.
but you know, it's so simple.
Yeah.
But you think about it, well, duh,
Yeah.
you know, why didn't you think of that? But you know, because I guess because women at the time didn't think that was their place to go out and do things like that.
Well, and she was, I mean, even her trip to Rome that you were talking about, I know she was terrified of the water, right? And she made 30 trips overseas back and forth to Europe, being terrified of the water, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, she was 96 when she died. That's,
Yeah.
for that era, that was pretty old.
I think, but am I confusing that with St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, the 30 trips? I don't think so. I think that's Drexel, yeah.
Well, Seton did go to Italy too.
And then, but then Drexel also, so she was like in her 70s, late 70s, so she died in 96, but she was only active really until she was 77, and then she had the heart attack, and basically, I thought of Mother Angelica actually is who I thought of, right?
Yeah.
So Mother Angelica was so devastated by, I think she had a stroke if I'm remembering correctly, and then she could do very little after that. She had been so prominent and then could do very little. Same thing with Catherine Drexel.
Well, actually, it wasn't. Drexel, actually, she had to recover from that, but she said the most productive years of her life was her last 20 years.
Yeah, that's
So
what.
from
because
77 to 96 was her most productive.
But it was not in terms of building institutions and things.
No.
It was more in terms of prayer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also
So she focused her life
managing.
in prayer.
She managed her sisters and things. So,
Sure, yeah.
She had hundreds of sisters
Yeah.
all over the country.
Yeah.
Still do.
Mhm.
They're still there. But talk about, you know, somebody who was raised from very early on. Her parents were raised to say, you know, we have wealth to share it with other people.
Yeah, exactly.
And to do whatever we can to help them.
Yep.
And her mother especially was very, well, her father was very prayerful, but her mother was the one that invited the people in and said that she focused on the poor should not have cold feet. So she focused on shoes and socks and things for them. So it was, you know, pretty simple things, you know, to help somebody,
Yeah.
but made such a big impact.
Right.
You don't have to walk barefoot in the snow.
I don't, yeah, thanks to her.
I'm going to ask your,
So it was
your dad about that.
So her, yeah, it's not a true story, I'll just give you a hint.
Openly lying.
Yeah, I'll hear your confession later. Wait a minute, I gotta put my collar on.
Oh my goodness.
You can hear it, but you can't forget
Yeah.
it, so
There's
that's.
no absolution.
I actually, that's sort of an ongoing thing with Dale and I. asked him one time, I came out of the confessional and I said, Dale, can you help me hear confessions? He said, I can help to hear them, but I can't forgive anybody.
Yeah.
You know, but actually, the other thing that changed St. Catherine Drexel's life is, so her mother had died, right? She had a stepmother then, but her stepmother also was dying, and she was caring for her, and the last 3 years of her life, she cared for her, and she realized that money can't buy everything. And that's when she really handed her life over to the Lord too, the work that she did throughout her life.
You know, what I couldn't find out was, I guess what happened was she and her two sisters had no heirs. And so the money kind of ran out for Catherine Drexel. Her money finally just ran out.
She gave it all away.
Well, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then
So I think she gave away ultimately like $7 million in her life is what the thing said. Yeah.
but that was probably worth
Yeah.
400
Oh,
million.
yeah,
Right,
You know,
right.
you
Yeah.
know, so it's an unbelievable number.
Yeah.
But it was, but anyway, so that what happened was that the base of the estate was still there, that they couldn't touch. The three sisters couldn't touch, and they had no heirs. So the money actually ended up going back to the charities that her father had designated.
Oh.
So that,
Wow.
so they weren't allowed to spend it, but this is what happened. She was worried about if they got married, would somebody try to get their hands on it? So that's why he limited that to the interest only, to
Wow.
protect them
Sure.
from that happening, so they always had that,
Yeah.
that steady income.
Wow. Smart.
Yeah. There was a guy that came over from Europe, and he was a portrait painter.
A portrait
And he
painter.
landed in Philadelphia, and he said, you know, I'm gonna make it be rich in America. This is in the early 1800s, and he picked up some things about money changing and things, and he during the Depression in 1837 or something, he said, well, I can make money doing this, and so he did, and before the recession over, he was a millionaire.
Who's this?
Drexel's dad.
Oh, Drexel's dad.
Yeah, Catherine's dad, and so he became a very influential banker. So that's where they got their money. $16 million to us now. It's not, well, that's
Yeah.
not exactly filthy rich. I mean, you're
That's
very
pretty
rich.
rich.
But I mean, you're very well off. But back then, $16 million.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Holy mackerel! That was a ton of money.
Yeah. The last saint is Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton, who Saint. Did I say that? Yeah, Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton. You know what I was thinking of? I'm thinking of Saint Francis Cabrini. That's who I was thinking of.
You studied the wrong saint.
I did. I was because
She's the first naturalized.
right, and I was thinking
saint.
of her specifically because she started the hospital here in Seattle. It was the
Oh.
last hospital that she started. It was
Yeah.
here in Seattle. Well, in Seattle. It's no longer a hospital though. I was looking that up actually. Because throughout her life, like she had set it up so that it was serving the poor in particular, and as medical costs rose and they couldn't afford to keep the hospital open, they had to close the doors, I think in 1990. So well after she had died, but
Yeah.
but it was because they were serving the poorest of the poor, right? So sorry, St. Francis Cabrini, I looked up the completely wrong person. St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, go at it, you guys.
She's kind of cool because she did it all. She was
Parish right
married
north of
and
us.
yeah, that's true. I
She was a
never-
mother.
Yeah, married and mother
Married
of
at
6 or 7 children.
5.
Oh, okay.
Married at 19. and then-
Again? Oh no, that was converted at 19. Sorry, say Katerina
Again?
Well, I've been again at 19.
How many times was
but
she married?
the conversion, the wedding, oh mackerel. Can we stop this video now?
Well, we're gonna have to. Well, we're getting into heresy here.
She was married to a man and then she married the Lord later.
She got married at 19.
Yep.
He had some kind of lung disease, tuberculosis is what it was. He hit his family when he was young, but he carried it
Right.
in him, and then it started to get worse. And he was a pretty wealthy merchant at the time, and it started to get worse. And then the economy went to tank. So he pretty much lost. They lost all their money, home and everything else. They had enough money left over to take him to Italy because they thought the climate in Italy would help his tuberculosis. And they took 2 of the daughters with him. The other 3 went to stay with an uncle or something. And when they got there, it was only like a year or 2 and he died. And so she was a widow at 29. I think she's only married 10 years. Had 5 kids in 10 years. And then by the time she came back here, those 2 daughters died from tuberculosis. And I don't know exactly what happened to the other 3.
You had asked me that and I have no idea.
Yeah, I was just
Surviving
curious.
children.
I gotta look that up
I was
again.
gonna say it'd be cool to kind of look that up. Hey, maybe you guys can look it up. Look it up
Homework
on Wikipedia or something. I don't know.
But
Just
we know that 2 of the
Saint
daughters
Elizabeth
died.
Ann
I
Seton's
can't remember
daughters.
what happened to the other. They might have died too, but I'm not sure. But then she started. She went to Emmitsburg in Maryland because she kind of got chased out of wherever she was in New York or whatever, and she started a school there. It was the first free Catholic school. So she was the mother of all the parochial schools in the whole country. because she started them all over the place.
Yeah.
So she was,
And there's a fairly
and
successful
hospitals too,
homeschool
like I
program
said.
now named after her.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she was a remarkable woman, and she died at pretty young too, like 46, I think, something like that.
Oh, really? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think she lived, I mean, it's incredible what people can do in a short amount of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, think of, Kateri or Drexel was around a
Yeah,
long time.
96,
but-
yeah.
Yeah, she was around doing it for a long time, but St. Elizabeth was another one that,
Yeah.
she didn't die, she was kind of 46, I
Younger.
don't think is really young.
That's, they say only the good die young, that's why I'm gonna be 100 by the time I'm It's true, that's what they say.
I'll vouch for that. Of course, he might not make it out of here today.
But St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, of course, is also the parish to the north of us, which you used to be a part of.
I was, and in fact, I was there when Bishop Eusebio was Father Eusebio. And Father Duggan, he was there before
Yeah.
him. So, yeah, I was part of the parish council there.
Yeah.
It was good times.
Yeah.
So,
And the St. Elizabeth Ann Seton actually is a daughter parish of St. Brendan, so it actually was formed out of St. Brendan. There are 3 parishes where that happened. You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah. So there are 3 parishes that were formed out of St. Brendan, St. John Vianney, which is sort of in the Kirkland area, and then St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, which, I mean, it's Bothell, but Mill Creek, right?
Okay.
And then in Woodinville, St. Mother Teresa of Calcutta. So all 3 of those are daughter parishes that were carved out of.
There's another one who didn't die young.
Yeah, she didn't die young either, yeah. She was incredible too.
And actually, when you were talking about depictions of saints,
Yeah, oftentimes.
never with her. She's
yeah,
not portrayed
yeah.
as a youthful
Right.
young woman at
Yeah.
all.
Maybe, I think it's because she was such a public
Yep,
figure,
I
right? In a
agree.
time where television was a big thing. With Mother Teresa, of course, we're talking about. Yeah, so I think people just, if they pictured her younger, that people would be
You
like,
recognize
who's
her.
that?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
all with
yeah.
4'9" of her.
Yeah, she's super
Something like
tiny,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
So-
Just talk about, I mean, we think about all of these people who started all of these places, right? So Catherine Drexel, 65 different schools and missions and things. St. Francis Cabrini was the same kind of thing. I think it was like, I can't remember which one was which. If it was, one was 65 and the other one was 70 institutions, hospitals and centers for the poor and all kinds of things that they had started. And I'm blown away by that. And Mother Teresa is another one who just started things all over the world.
Well,
right?
you were talking about Mother Angelica too.
Yeah.
You know, this, yeah.
Yeah.
This very, very powerful woman.
Yeah, who do incredible things. Anyway, so that's our 3 saints for the day. And we talked a little bit about independence and the 4th of July, right? The celebration of when our country gained that independence. I didn't realize this, I looked it up too, that we only officially started celebrating that in 1940.
Really?
Yeah, so there were celebrations all the way up to that point, but it only became sort of like an official thing.
Right
Yeah,
prior to World
in
War II.
1940. Yeah, right?
Would have been Roosevelt
Oh,
that probably did that. I would
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
interesting.
guess. It wasn't, yeah, he was president in 1940. He didn't die till 45, so.
Hmm.
yeah.
It's interesting things, but again, there were celebrations that were all
Yeah.
the way up until then, but, yeah.
Were there any questions on there?
I don't see any questions.
Any more negative comments from Ryan?
Is Ryan still watching?
Oh, he hung up probably.
I don't know if he's still there or not.
Oh.
What else was I gonna say? Oh, I know what I was gonna say, that this is gonna be our last episode for the summer. So we're going to take a break the rest of July, and then August we'll be back the second Saturday at 10 a.m. In September, whatever that second
Which
Saturday
happens
is.
to
I
be
wanna say it's
September
like the
11th.
10th. Oh, the 11th.
Oh, that's right. It does.
So,
Yep.
and we were making that connection actually, so we're gonna
Right.
end right after the 4th of July and start up on another day where we should remember the importance of freedom in our country.
Well, I was going to mention
9/11.
too, just I think sometimes we forget that patriotism is a virtue.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes gets overlooked a lot
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a good connection
Yeah.
with those dates.
And important to have anyway in our. Oh, so Ryan just he did say I'm here. So
Oh,
Ryan's
good!
still there.
Yay!
You know, that's
You've
what
become
you-
our fourth, Ryan.
There you go.
We're just gonna have you pull up a seat, join us virtually or something.
You know what Mary just said was kind of interesting because where we are in this country right now, as far as patriotism, is that you know it's somebody said that the other day was that we have become more of a dehumanizing culture right now with no respect
Yeah.
because a lot of it because of social media and the
Mhm.
political climate. You know that we need to remember that the whole world does not revolve around politics.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
to know that we're supposed to love everyone. We're not supposed to, just because you voted for him, I don't like you anymore.
Right.
And, you know, or cancel this or cancel that. It's just, it's like you're just not satisfied
Sure.
with yourself.
And so you're taking that out on others, yeah.
Right.
Well, some people also
exactly.
confuse patriotism and nationalism.
There you
And those
go.
are two totally different things.
Yeah.
You know, you can love your country and still want it to improve, you know, and
Right.
and recognize that there's a lot of flaws in our history and
Right.
currently,
Yes.
you know, so.
But but if we're not taking pride in our country in terms of that patriotism either, then we're not going to be seeking to improve it as
Right.
a country, right? It's almost
Yeah.
like we'd rather see people, at least some people, would rather see it destroyed, right, than to continue improving it, right?
Yes.
So time I've seen people say, well, I don't know what to do about it. I just kind of, you know, whatever happens, happens, you know. To me, that's saying, well, I gave up hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the most dangerous thing that could happen in this country is people give up hope that
Well,
things could be better.
And people who just stop voting, for example.
Sure.
And it's just because it is that.
Yeah,
It's just
that's
sort of,
a lack of hope.
Yeah.
But that's, and I always say this, that when you reach that point of despair, when there's no more hope that's left, I think I mean, obviously we believe that despair even in itself is sin, is sinful, but in that moment when someone has a moment of despair, then they can, oh, the lights went out, that's when we always know it's time to stop. We are backlit now.
Lights out.
Yeah. So
That's true.
when we get to that point of despair, we should realize that we've placed our hope in something that's other than God. Nothing in this world is going to be perfect. No human being is going to be perfect. No country is going to be perfect. No, I don't know, especially revolutions are not going to be perfect, right? I think we forget that and we expect perfection, but no one is perfect. No one is perfect.
We need to place our hope in the Lord.
Exactly.
So if you have, you know, if you're placing your hope in the country,
government.
Or the government.
or even
yeah.
people, you know,
Right.
that's
Well, true,
misplaced
yeah.
because if you go to, God can do anything.
Right.
So if you go and ask him, he can solve this issue. These issues that we don't think we can solve, which we having problems solving them,
Yeah.
but the Lord can solve them pretty
And
quick.
that's the beauty of the Declaration of Independence, though, too, is that these are rights from God. Like, we hold
Yeah.
these truths to be self-evident. So it's not about the government taking responsibility and stepping in for God. We're already given these rights by God
By
through
God.
some natural law.
Right, exactly. Which natural law gets.
I
I mean, we should be talking about natural law more often, but
Mhm.
people hear natural law and they immediately get all upset again.
know, well, and it's one of those, like, people talk about, oh, you can't legislate morality. It's like, that's all laws are.
Yeah.
That's literally what laws are.
Yeah, if you can't legislate morality, then thou
What are we
shalt not
doing?
kill.
Right,
It
exactly,
shouldn't be
exactly.
anything either.
Well, it's
So
a shame that we've had to legislate so much as it is. And it seems like every time we turn around, somebody's saying, well, we're gonna have to have a new law.
right.
Yeah.
I think about that, I mean, the tragedy that happened down in Florida, right, with the collapse of that building and all of those things. But the problem, I mean, obviously it's a terrible thing that happened, and there were plenty of warning signs, it sounds like, that they, should have. But how is anybody supposed to really know that something like that is going to happen? That's impossible. But the first thing that I thought of, not the first thing, I mean, but one of the things that I thought of is now there's going to come all of these new laws out of this also, because people are overreacting to things, which is what government tends to do in terms of governing sometimes too. But anyway,
We've got shame that every time you turn around, you gotta have new law to dictate your behavior.
Right.
And but you know what? How about just doing the right thing?
Right.
Just do the right thing.
It's like
pretty simple.
It reminds me of the tower, right, that Jesus speaks about, that fell on the people and killed them, right, in the scriptures. It's the Tower of, I can't remember, is it Siloam? Anyway, and the Lord, I mean, he doesn't talk about, oh, now we need to send engineers in there to figure out what.
Right.
No, we should care about the people that have died there, right? We should mourn their loss. We should pray for the families of those who have died, the friends of those who died and were injured or are still lost, or the people who are working on the recovery there, and at this point the recovery of bodies. But
the grief is just immense.
Right.
You can almost feel it all the way from Florida here.
But immediately it turns to, like, let's turn to blame someone for this, is I guess what I'm getting at also. And that's the thing that you're getting at with the cancel culture also. So we're going to cancel whoever has done this wrong or that wrong. Wait a second. We need to back up a second there.
You can't delete history.
Yeah.
You can't go in the past and delete history.
Yeah.
You can't go in the future either. So, you have to deal with the present the way it is. You can't try to go back and change things before and then have them happen again.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big fear. You cancel history, and chances are you may repeat it. Somebody may repeat it.
And I would think, I mean, we were talking, this kind of all started when we were talking about patriotism and all of that too, but I think that it is a vast minority of people who don't have or feel like they don't want to love the country or love the flag even, right? The conversation about the changing of the flag and it being a symbol of hatred. That's a vast minority of people. What it stands for, what the flag stands for, I mean, the song that's written even about that, right? The Star-Spangled Banner, right? And so it's in the midst of that battlefield for freedom. That's where this image of the flag gets started. But it's about a love for the country. It's not about a hate for the country, or even a symbol of the things that the country has done wrong, or people in the country, more importantly, have done wrong, right? But as you were saying, it's about bringing it to a better place, right?
I mean, we're currently in the middle of the Holocaust of little tiny babies. I mean, this is not going to end well in terms of the history books. Nobody's going to look kindly on this era. It's
and all the things
brutal.
that we do.
And I can still say that I'm proud to be an American, even though
there's all of this other things going on.
It's also a lack of personal responsibility that is causing a lot of this, the abortion issue and things, because and just women, but men too. I mean, they're participating in this, and so
and encouraging it by their actions.
If you don't take responsibility for your actions, this is the result, and then you have to go do something like this because and then you have a right to do this. Well, you had a responsibility as part of your right to not get yourself in that position.
Engage in it in the first place.
Yeah, that's just it. So.
Well, we've gone deeper there. Take a deep breath, everybody.
I think
we went deeper than we thought we were going to, I think. But that's okay. It's a good conversation and good things to talk about, important things to talk about. And that's part of the point of this also, right? So helping us to think about things in a different way and from a faith perspective. Also, it's evangelizing with joy and truth, which I think the truth sometimes is very difficult. We've shown that time and again at different times during this. But it's also doing it with joy, recognizing that we don't have to hate someone, as you were saying, right? It's not about hating someone who disagrees with the way that we think. I mean, in some ways we pray for conversion to happen, and that's why we do something like this show. But Anyway, so
We're called to love our neighbor.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the difference right
Yeah.
there. And then
Well, and-
look right back to the Lord again.
And that's the thing, right? We've forgotten how to love our neighbor, and why is that? Because we've taken loving God out of the equation. So Jesus says the two greatest commandments are love the Lord your God with all of your heart, mind, soul, and strength. That's the first. And the second is to love your neighbor as yourself. So if we first love God, first we receive love from God, and then we love God, and then we learn how to love ourselves because God created us in His image and likeness, and therefore we can also love all of the others, right? We can love our neighbor as ourselves because we realize that regardless of what they might do, they're still created in God's image and likeness.
We had a problem, I think, going in with social media because you didn't know who this person was. You could say anything you wanted to do, say, and didn't care about the other person because you didn't know them.
Right.
You know, and I think what's happened is the pandemic, because you didn't have any face-to-face conversations or anything, the pandemic actually made that worse and exposed where we are, which is not a good place. So we need to recognize that and change that, our behavior for the future.
Yeah. Ryan says that chicken brings truth.
Was it that bad, Ryan?
The chicken of truth.
That's for you, Ryan.
That's for you.
Oh man, emotional. What does that say on the back?
Emotional support chicken.
Yes.
Dale, you should cuddle with that chicken.
Squeeze
After
me
today's
for emotional
episode.
support.
Yeah, you should just hold it tight,
Aw.
Dale.
Gee, this is really a tough crowd.
Well, it's because you're saying you were having a tough day, so I figured
Yeah, you need
just
some emotional support.
hold on to that chicken.
Wasn't that kind of support, I'm tired.
Yeah.
This thing's gonna make too much noise, trying to, oh, look, you got a bow tie too, you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's a well-dressed chicken.
Well dressed. That red vest is something else. Looks like he's a volunteer. Okay, so we're gonna call it a day. We will see you again in September. The idea is that we'll start this up in September, and then we were talking about maybe by October, even turning this perhaps into a podcast. So we might do that. We'll see where it goes from there, but we've got a lot of work to do between now and then.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting and fun along the way. So we'll see you in September. Is that a song?
Oh,
I just sing that all the I know.
Where's the crack about that
Should we close out with a prayer, perhaps?
Oh yeah, let's do that. Or I just closed it with a song. No, that's we don't listen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, as you continue to bless us even in this summer months, and all of those who are watching, we ask for your blessing upon them and upon their families, that they also might come to a deeper knowledge of who you are and the love that you have for them. We ask that you would bless our country, that you would bless each of our families to help us to become also those saints like the ones that we mentioned today, who do good with our lives and affect our world for the better, to make it a better place, lived according to what you have given to us, the values that you have given to us. We ask all this through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless you all. And again, we'll see you in September. Maybe we should have Mary sing that as we're going away, because she's got the voice, not me. Sing it, Mary.
No, I've got Come Saturday Morning in my head.
Saturday
You know that one?
No.
Yeah.
It's a Saturday morning confusion.
No.
If I could just get a transfusion. No. Yeah.
I'm going away with my friends.
I'm just gonna continue recording.
I'm out of here.
Who sang that?
Oh, are you gonna tell me to leave it up to them?